Good morning! I got music playing! Yay! I can do all kinds of things. I've been learning new tricks. Welcome back to the show. I'm Kate Sylvanus, and I've got music playing, so I'm feeling very happy about life. Little things that make us happy. Oh dear, I think I've got to probably stop it. There we go. I can play tunes, and I can switch and mix. Now, I am not a DJ. I am learning this whole disc jockey. There's no discs involved. It's cut and paste. However, I'm trying to do this so it makes it more entertaining. And I don't need to talk for half an hour. I can sort of have a break for a cup of tea and things like that. So it makes sense that I get it all planned out properly. Now, look, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm making it up as I go along in this area. Right. In other areas that I talk about, I have been doing it for decades and I know exactly what I'm doing. But it's nice to learn new things. I may be old and grey, but I'm still learning new technologies. 3 Dark Moon rocks. Dark Moon certainly does rock today, because I've got rock music playing, all from Pixabay. Thank you very much, Pixabay. It's no copyright music, it's royalty-free, all kinds of things on there. So I shall tell you about Pixabay. Is wonderful, because they're not paying me. They're probably not listening even. But I'm using no copyright music, so I'll be fine. Right. Let's close that. I've got a MacBook Air, and I'm still learning that as well, because it's just been upgraded to this new 26 operating system, and I'm like, okay. And I'd only just got it for the first week, and it's a refurbished one, but it's still a lot more technology than I'm used to. So again, huge learning curves. It's something to distract me. The energies are huge right now, all right? I told you yesterday the collective unconscious is sucking us dry, and that's one of the things that I've got on my list to talk to you about today, because it is immense. Everybody I see, everybody I hear somewhere on the internet, they look tired, they feel flat, they feel like they're holding themselves up by their fingernails, and it's not a pretty sight. And yeah, not all of us get to rest. We all have to work to do, and we've got things to do, and it is a tough time. Give yourself a break, please, because I don't really, you have to. You actually have no choice. So in other words, go to sleep and rest as much as possible, because I think until round about the 24th, 25th of September, this energy is going to stay the same. It's a slog, right? We've just got to put one foot in front of the other, keep moving, just keep swimming. And sometimes my brain does not want a brain, and I apologize for that, when you can't find a word and stuff, but it is the energy shitstorm that we're going through, and it's exhausting. Give people a break. It's a tough thing. I got chewed up on social media yesterday, which kind of like, it was all sort of distant. It was like it was happening, but it was like, they're actually sort of chewing me up for something I posted. That's nice. Okay. And it felt like it was a long way away, like a disassociation of it. They'd got the wrong end of the stick of something I posted, which is not unusual. I mean, it's happened quite a few times over the years. And I was thinking all about how it doesn't happen as often as it used to, put it that way. Because I've got Facebook, pretty much my friends know me. And if they don't like what they post, they scroll what I post, they scroll on. But every now and again, somebody strange picks it up and it gets turned around. And it's like, okay, it's the nature of the beast. But it's also, I will say things that offends, which kind of worries. It's a worry because I'm in England and I could offend. And yes, that's one of the reasons that I'm doing this, is because I refuse to bow down to non-free speech. Free speech is important. I was brought up with free speech. I don't know how not to talk free speech. Okay, so you can say, oh, well, you've got to monitor it. Well, that's not in my nature. I don't know how. I will get sort of say, hey, it's not that way. This is how it is. And people could get offended. And it's going to happen. Yeah, over the last few years, everything has got weird, because it's like you have to sort of toe the party line, toe the sort of the whatever is the trending thing. And I don't actually know what the trending thing is, because I don't follow mainstream medias. I don't know what's going on in the world, apart from what I pick up on Facebook, Twitter, to a certain extent, other platforms, but that's it. Yeah. So finding out what's going on in the world and finding what you can and can't talk about this week is not going to happen on here. So sorry. I'm not that sorry. It's the way it is. I'm quite actually happy with the way it was. So, yeah, the whole system is not something I can even acknowledge. So I'm not going to pay lip service to it. I will be quiet if it's going to cause a fuss, because I don't really want to, but I'm not changing my views. I don't understand how this world works sometimes. It is incomprehensible to me. There is like an unwritten memo that I didn't get. You could call it neurodiversity, and you can call it what you like, whatever the modern label is. I don't feel that you can't change the way I think about things. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to change you could say, oh, well, that thought's wrong. Wrong think. Bad think. Change that thought. And I'm like, how does one do that? I'm still going to think I'm right. I'm not going to think I'm wrong. And that's a weird concept that they have, that they can actually change the way we think. I don't know. Maybe they can change the young people's minds, and that's what they're after. And okay, I don't agree, but okay, I can't stop that. But yeah, I'm 54. I've been round the sun a few times, and I've kind of set in my ways and my opinions. I can change my mind. Recently, I've changed my mind on a few things, but it's taken like a lot of facts reasoning before it happens, when I'm fairly fixed on some things and not others. Anyway, it's just my musing. That's what 9 o'clock in the morning, and I'm on the ball today because I've got some music playing, and basically I can stop talking and play music at any time I want. I have that power now. I do love technology. I know I moan and whine about it, but I do love technology. But let me tell you, on the towpath today, it's a little bit overcast. It's not cold. Hasn't had that cold snap yet. Towpath last night got very crowded with a bunch of people returning their boats to the higher boats, and it gets amusing. I was taking the dog for a walk up to the loch, and an American lady, very tired, very pale, very drawn, from Washington State, America. And they live on a boat a couple of times during the year. They thought this was going to be really easy, and they weren't. It isn't easy, and he was being miserable. That was her husband. And they were saying, can you help us find a mooring? We just want to go to sleep. We're exhausted. And it was like, have you got any cider or beer? Give him a beer and make him happy. It's one of those places where a little bit of alcohol, low rate alcohol. Okay, if you can't drink alcohol, don't do it. But it's like something needing to relax. If you've done a really hard day and going to find a mooring, I know how that feels. So I helped them find a mooring and pulled them in. And she was lovely. She was telling me all about sort of her boat in Washington State. And I said, there's bears there, isn't there? Oh, yes, I came round the corner and saw a black bear. And I'm like, well, that's one thing we do not have in Britain. That is wildlife that's going to kill you. You know, I wake up in the morning and I've got the screams of kites, the red kites, and it screams and it goes round and round, and I think there's a few of them actually. And it's quite a wild scream, but at least you wouldn't have a bear. It's going to try and eat you. That's like really scary. I lived in South Africa for many years, so I do know there is wildlife. I nearly stood on a black and yellow snake, a puff adder, in South Africa once upon a time. So yes, okay, I'm careful in the wildlife, but I guess I get blasé about the whole sort of British forests and woodlands, and I go wandering off with a dog and I find beautiful spaces, but I'm not worried about something coming along and eating me, which gives a whole different meaning to going for a hike or going for a walk if you've kind of got to sort of run away from a bear, if that's possible. I don't know. But yes, she was lovely and we chatted, because I get the feeling you watched him and he just was tuning out. He tuned out everything. And there was a fisherman there, and he sort of wandered over to chat to the fisherman. He just didn't want to talk to his wife. And it's like, really? How many years of marriage, I don't know, but they're both sort of older than I am, probably in their 60s. And, no, we're not having a very good holiday. It's hard work on the canals, okay? The boat requires, the locks, navigation. It's windy right now. People are bumping into your boat. Yeah, it's difficult. It's not a sort of a plain sailing, to use a boating term. But there is a matter of taking it each thing at a time. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. That's a very, very good analogy about life. And I've taken that on board because I'm worrying about the next step. So the next step is always a worry. And it's like, okay, let's just do what I'm doing now and we worry about the next time. My brain has to be sort of shut up sometimes. And it's like, no, enough. You've done enough. You treat it like a small child. Okay, you've whined enough now. Sit down and shut up and do what you need to be doing now. And it's an interesting sort of brain relationship. Right. Incidentally, Dark Moon rocks. Darkmoon.rocks is my website. And you can go on there and book an oracle reading. I do live readings. I will do one-to-one readings. You can book through Tidy Cow, but the link is all on darkmoon.rocks. There's also I've programmed an agent. I did a GPT agent. I've put all my stuff into that, and it's pretty good. It is pretty good. So you can get a free reading from the Tarot Oracle, the sort of the digital threshold guardian. So the Tarot Oracle is on the website as well. So if you need to know just a free digital reading, and you can also book a live reading with me. Live reading with me will cost £35, and I will give free follow-ups, and you can record it. So it's something I've been doing for decades. I mean, literally. Most people I know me through the tarot reading. Tarot and crystal ball is my thing, but you take it a step further. I will talk about that at another time. But also, there's also a shop on there. If you could browse my wares, I've got a course on there called the Dark Moon Hypnotic Whispers Guide to Self-Hypnosis, right? So I worked hard on putting this course together, and it's £66. You can buy it on the website. I also have the Shadow Healers Starter Pack, so that's also there, and a couple of ebooks that I've written, and the Dark Moon Bundle, of course. The Ritual Bundle. I've put a lot of videos together. I've put a lot of work. I've got a journal in there. There's a workbook. There's a couple of calendars. There's meditations. There's lots of things in there. If you'd like to have that, I think there's a page also on my website dedicated to the Dark Moon Ritual Bundle. That's kind of my keystone. So everything about the Dark Moon is in that bundle, and how to work with it. So how to work the step-by-step into the rituals, into each moon, because this is where you get started, right? If you can start pretty much anywhere, but you start with working with the moon, working with nature, working with which phase of the moon you're in. Where are you? Because we are influenced. The water in your body is pulled by the moon, so tidal. So we're all tidal. So inside the bundle, it's a starter's kit, carry you through every moon, right? Basically, every moon that is covered, I've put a meditation for it, and it's a hypnotic suggestive meditation. In fact, all my meditations have got hypnosis, NLP, and it sort of embeds the teaching. So it's not your standard, read this and learn it, read it, write it, learn it. This is listen to the meditation and you pretty much got it inside you. Your mind has it imprinted. That's what hypnosis is all about, and why not? Let's use it to learn and teach. So it's the darkmoon.rocks website. That's where I'm at. Okay, going to talk about fuel, dark fuel. All right? So I want to flip your entire understanding of energy work on its head. First, let me ask you something. How much of your day yesterday did you spend not trying to feel things? I spent big chunks of my time doing that. How much energy went into wall building? I don't do that anymore. Setting boundaries, basically wearing invisible armor against the world's emotional chaos, right? So all the outpouring of other people right now, you can hear the howl. You know, I wouldn't want to be ChatGPT. Can you imagine all the people that are just howling at it? It's just a big whale pouring into ChatGPT from all of the users all around the world. Millions and millions of people using ChatGPT and all howling about life right now. And I'm not saying they're wrong. ChatGPT is probably a good place to put it, right? ChatGPT is, it's not going to be overwhelmed by feelings. It's not a therapist that's going to disintegrate under what you have to tell it. So, yeah, the howl of humanity. How are you keeping it all out? How are you actually coping? Or are you coping? Now, a lot of people build walls. Now, this is where I'm going to say stop it, because you're putting so much energy into building that wall. There's nothing left. If you are sensitive, most people I know who are sensitive, they spend most of their day wearing this invisible armor. And I get it, right? The world is intense. Okay, people are triggered, emotions running high. And if you're someone who picks up on energy, which, let's be honest, if you're listening to this show, you probably are, it can feel like you're constantly under attack. So we shield, we protect, we visualize white light bubbles, and we set firm boundaries. And we limit our exposure to difficult people and situations. And you know what? We're still exhausted. We're still knackered. Right, so I want to talk to you about why that is. And most importantly, what we can do about it that doesn't involve becoming a hermit or pretending we're not naturally wired to feel everything. We are. We are naturally wired to feel everything. Everybody. Men, women, there's no such thing as a special empath. It's just somebody who has been hypersensitized. Right, we're all empathic to a greater or lesser degree. Even even the psychopaths have got a level of it. They've tuned it out to a really low ebb, but it is still there. I look at some people's and what they're saying. We all have everything, but we just focus. They're just facets. So some people don't want to have had really rough childhoods and overwhelmed, and it's like, so that shuts down. Okay, but it was still there. Right. So here's the thing. Nobody talks about in mainstream energy work. Shielding is often more draining than the stuff you're trying to shield from. Let me say that again. The shield that you're trying to project is often more draining than the stuff you're trying to shield from. You're pouring all your energy into holding energetic walls. And where's that coming from? It's coming from you. You're literally using your own life force to keep other people's stuff out, which means you're running at a constant energy deficient. It's like you're trying to hold up something heavy, like a shield, all day. Your arms are going to get tired, right? Except in this case, your nervous system is getting fatigued. Now, I know what you're thinking, but if I don't shield, won't I just get overwhelmed by everyone's emotions? Yes, that's what you're thinking, but you won't. Won't I lose myself in the chaos? I won't know where I start, or I stop and the people begin. I will just get absorbed into the message. Yes, that was always my fear too. I hear you. And it's a fair question because none of us were taught how to be sensitive without being overwhelmed. We were taught that sensitivity equals vulnerability. That feeling other people's stuff means getting knocked over by it, right? But what happens if I say that's not exactly true? Yeah, turning everything on its head, right? There's a third option between us being a sponge and being a wall. And this is what I see everywhere. Right? People getting overwhelmed, getting knocked down, getting sick. If you get overwhelmed for too long, you get sick. You know this. I'm not telling anything you didn't know. If you're getting overwhelmed, your immune system gets a kick too. And you're pouring your own life force into shielding. And you are still getting overwhelmed. Right. So what happens if you could be something more like a transformer? Something that takes incoming energy and converts it into something useful. I've been exploring this for generations. It feels like probably decades. Like every time I see a client or I do a reading or I watch the shields go up. If you're doing tarot, immediately somebody sits down for a reading, shields go up. They're not sure. It's like, I want this, but I'm not sure. I've written a book about it. It's coming out soon. But you need to be something else rather than a sponge or a wall. So it's quite frankly something, nobody seems to be doing this. Right? Instead of keeping out energy, we learn to take it in consciously, right? So you remove your shield and you stand there. And instead of being afraid of intensity, we learn to feed off it. We learn to absorb it. And before you think that this sounds too woo-woo or too dark, look, hear me out. Because this isn't about becoming predatorial and feeding on something that isn't coming your way naturally. Right? People are throwing up all their energy. All their emotional intensity is being thrown up. Blech, all over you. Right? And you are still trying to shield and go, oh, no. But it's still coming in. You know that. Your shields aren't working. Nobody's shields really work. Right? So it's still, you are taking the impact. But because you're trying to force it away, that's where all your energy's going. Okay, so you're not even becoming manipulative. You didn't ask for it to happen to you. They're doing it to you anyway, right? So it's not predatory. It's not vampiric. It's manipulative. It's not manipulative. This is about working with your natural sensitivity instead of against it. Okay, let's give an example. I was at the supermarket and I hate queues. My ankles hurt. I sprained my ankle a couple months back and it's still not. And I have to stand. It's like fingers down a blackboard. Really hurts. So there was a woman in a queue ahead of me who was just radiating frustration. Right? This is a common occurrence, right? If you're in a queue and the person in front of you is just, well, just get a move on. And she's projecting at the cashier, but she's like spilling over. And you go into a supermarket, you know this is going to occur. Right? They're getting better, you know. People get crossed with the no people tills, but that's a different story. Right? So this woman is radiating frustration. She's obviously got things that she needs to be doing, you know, and there's other people that are getting in her way. So if I didn't understand what was going on, I would have felt that frustration build in my own body. It sort of radiates out of her and it infects everybody around her. I would have started feeling agitated and annoyed, and I'd probably have spent the rest of my shopping trip trying to shake off her bad mood. You know what I'm talking about here. You were infected by her bad mood, it infects you, and then you go and throw it up over somewhere else, and it's just a domino effect. But I took a deep breath, and what does this frustration actually feel like energetically? What's the temperature of it? Hot? Most frustration, anger is quite hot, or at least warm. How bad is it fast? It's like frazzled. It's like a fizzy. It's a fizzy thing. And it's like it's burning out at the edges, you know, and it's sort of, it's fizzling all over the place. So instead of trying to push it away, I let the impact happen. I imagined it was like eating something spicy. I'm not fond of that spicy food sometimes, but I absorbed it. And I just sort of dropped my shoulders down and breathed it in. That was the physical side. But I was like tasting it, and it was like the fizz. And there's an initial hit, and then it metabolizes, and then you let it sink into your stomach, sort of your gut. Your gut area is not just for absorbing food. If you're a hypersensitive, you know how to do this. You know instinctively how to do this. You've just got to move your mind out the way. And you become the absorber, and you put it down into your gut. And then you send your gut some energy as you breathe in, and it changes inside your gut, inside your tummy. That whole area there, that chamber, becomes alchemy. It's like it changes from one thing to the next. And it's always been that way. It changes your food into calories and energy. It also changes other people's emotions. So you breathe in there, and it forms it into fuel. And I just breathed her in all that frustration. She was just throwing it up. I wasn't feeding off her. I was feeding what she was throwing up at everybody. So kind of by absorbing it, I was stopping other people get infected. So I absorbed, and then I by the time I left the supermarket, I felt energized, right? Suddenly it was like, wee, okay, there's a little high there. It's like I'd had some sugar. I let it move through me. I imagined that I was now full, and I was. It wasn't just a imagination. It was more like it was flowing through my blood vessels. I had literally turned someone else's frustration into my own vitality. I'm not saying that you should go around seeking out frustrated people, but there is an awful lot of people out there who are very, very frustrated, very sad. You know, you can feed off depression, anger, grief. Grief is a huge one. Grief is, for me, one of the saddest ones, but you're not taking it away from them or lessening their grief. You're just giving them a port in the storm. You're just lessening the impact just for a bit, because they will bring it back. And there's so many emotions that people are kind of wallowing in, and you just sort of seep it away because it's throwing up all over the place. It's spilling out. It's like pollution, and you're eating up the pollution, so it's not infecting everybody. Okay, so how does this actually work? Well, there's 4 stages to what I call energetic digestion. First, you learn to sense the incoming energy without immediately reacting to it. It's like tasting. I like breathing in and across my tongue, right? So tasting your food before you swallow it. Most of us even, I've watched the dog eat. He doesn't taste anything. It's gone. So stop gulping. Taste it first. Sip it, and you can sample it without committing to it. Is it appropriate? That's the other thing. I don't like eating sexual energy. Not interested. someone else's problem. So if you're horny, I'm not feeding off you. So that's my personal preference. Second, you learn to break down that energy. So that's where the energy happens. So you breathe it down, and every emotion, every intensity, every piece of chaos that has frequency and information in it, you learn to bring it all down. You don't even need to separate it. It's a frequency rather than a waveform. So you don't care. A negative emotion is just a frequency to you. It's not your negative emotion. I have no interest in taking that negative emotion inside, right? I just take the frequency wave. So it's like sound wave. Whatever the sound wave was, whatever the sound was, I'm not interested. But the wave that comes out from it, that's where I get food. When you learn to extract what serves you and let the rest pass through. So you don't want as I said, it's not the sound. The wave passes into you, and that's the bit that you can use. So thirdly, you can convert the energy into something your system can actually use. Maybe someone's anger becomes energy for you, so suddenly you see clearer. I put it down, sometimes I put it into my ankle, so it heals my ankle. So you can direct it, or you just sort of flood your system with it. It's yours. So once you have the waveform, you can transmit it. You can turn it into something positive and good for you, because it was kind of their waste product. They were just throwing it up. How you use it is your own business. Right, so you learn to do all this while staying centered into your own identity, because the goal isn't to become, you're not getting infected by that waveform. So if you see the frustration, the anger, the irritation in life, you don't want to be infected with the actual sound. You want to be infected with the waveform. You've got to separate that, right? The negative energy is theirs. The energy is what's being spewed all over the place. That's yours to take. That's yours. There is no moral dilemma here. Nobody wanted it in the first place. And a lot of times you are taking it in so that the power of the person who is throwing this up is lessened for everybody else who's just taking on the whole thing. So you know how to, right? So you are powered by it. You are empowered by it. So this is dark fuel. Okay, is this kind of predatory? Is this taking advantage of people? And it's a really important question, because there's a shadow side to energy work, right? And you kind of learn how not to do things. Experience will teach you most things. Your shadow will teach you an awful lot. You'll be tempted to play around, to draw energy from a person, draw emotion from people. And it's very easy to do. And if you try it on somebody who you know, they'll get angry at you. They don't know why they're angry at you, but they'll get angry at you. It's not worth the effort. And eventually you learn to control your own energy. But it takes practice. It's kind of like a diabetic would have to know their sugar levels in their body. You have to know it all the time. And it takes practice. But just this basic technique of just lessening the emotional intensity around you can be very helpful. And then when you start sort of helping people with their grief, helping people with their pain, when they're depressed, when they're sort of, the energy is so heavy around them, you can just lighten it up for them a bit. I feel that this has got far more healing properties than it does harming, but it does depend on the person. Okay, so let's have a look. What else have I put on my notes? So the first step is just getting curious about the energy instead of immediately trying to change it or avoid it. Next time someone's around you with big emotions, instead of bracing yourself or leaving the room, try asking, what does this actually feel like? What is the quality of this energy? Don't try to fix it, right? You're not going to stop this flow. You can't sort of brace yourself and say, right, I'm going to put a barrier up. That's where you're using your energy. Just observe it, right? Don't get involved. It's not yours. Like you're a scientist studying an interesting phenomenon. The second step is learning to breathe it in, sipping it in. Just breathe it in over your tongue, sip it, taste it. Okay. And then absorb it right the way down into your stomach. And in your stomach, take another breath and change it. Now, how that happens, you don't need to know. Don't even, just bring it into your stomach, breathe. You don't need to know. And then you've got a way of feeding yourself from this energy that is not immoral, predatory, manipulative, or anything like that. Do you feel more alive afterwards? More grounded, more like yourself, more clear? I always like the clarity. Suddenly my brain fires up. Now, I've been doing this work for a while, and I've been testing it with people on and off, and the results have been really good. So people who can learn this, who used to get completely wiped out by family gatherings, work, crowds, meetings, a work meeting, as cheap as that's a draining situation. They can feel energized again. People who used to avoid conflict at all costs are walking into difficult conversations, feeling confident and clear. So I was putting together a small group. I probably got distracted because of the radio, but it's called the Dark Fuel, and I want to teach this because I feel that it's a very important and necessary skill set for sensitive people. I think we need more sensitive people, not less, and people who aren't psychopaths is the opposite of a psychopath, the empath that is overwhelmed and is so gentle and kind, unless we give them something to support themselves. We need more of those people, and we need them to be strong. So I was going to put a small group together, spend 4 weeks, 1 call a week of group work on learning how to do this. If you're interested, drop me a bell. I can be found on Facebook. I can be found on the Dark Moon Rocks, kate@darkmoon.rocks. Find me there if you're interested in more of this. But I get that the approach isn't for everyone. If you're someone who just wants to avoid difficult emotions altogether, yeah, you can't avoid it, but if you want to keep trying, that's fine. And intensity. We're all afraid of intensity. I get it. But the pain of staying still has to become greater. No, the pain of moving forward has to become greater than the pain of standing still. The pain of standing still becomes huge, so you have to move forward. And there's less pain in moving forward. So if you're ready to turn your sensitivity into an actual superpower, you can become the person who can walk through any storm and come out of it stronger. Give me a call. See if you're curious about it. Your sensitivity is not a liability, right? It's a gift. And it's time you learn how to unwrap it properly. Well, I'm coming to an end here anyway. I seem to have spouted lots of stuff today, but I'm having a look. The moon is in Leo today, so it's playing around with these apps, because I can't work out the maths, never have done. So the apps that I'm using for finding out what phase of the moon I'm in, and for me the zenith is important. So the zenith of the full moon and the zenith of the dark moon is when the fullness hits you. Dark moon is kind of is where I have 3 days of rest. It's an inward journey, so it's kind of like a 3-day meditation for the dark moon. And for full moon, you go for the zenith, so when everything hits that high. So it's the top. For example, so the new moon hits at 20:56. So in other words, at 8:56 at night on the 21st of September, that is where the fullness of the dark moon. The fullness of the full moon is at 4:46 in the morning on October the 7th. Now, I've done daft things is go out in the middle of the night and sort of sit and stuff, but it gets a bit hard in October, but we shall see what the weather's like. But you have to be able to distinguish between the dark moon and the new moon, so the terms are often interchangeable, and I use them. Bad me. I use them and it confuses. So both occur at the beginning of the lunar cycle and involve minimal visible light. They represent distinct phases with different energy qualities, right? So I have to remember this because I have interchanged them because I didn't quite understand the new moon. So the new moon occurs when the moon is positioned between the Earth and the Sun, and the sunlight side faces away from us, rendering it largely invisible. Astrologically, the new moon marks the beginning of the new cycle, the sign for time for setting intentions, planting seeds of desire, and initiating fresh starts. The energy is vibrant, hopeful, and forward-looking. Okay, so the dark moon, on the other hand, is the phase preceding the new moon, specifically 1.5 to 3.5 days before the first sliver of light reappears in the sky. During this period, the moon is at its darkest, completely veiled in shadow. While technically still a new moon phase, the dark moon is regarded as the unique period that invites us to delve into the depths of our subconscious, confront our shadows, and release what no longer serves us. It's time for introspection, contemplation, and the necessary phase to pause before the new beginning. Think of it as a fertile darkness of the soil before the seed sprouts, or the incubation period before the butterfly emerges from its chrysalis. Key difference lies in focus. The new moon energy is about creation and initiation, whereas the dark moon energy is about completion and release. Right. So one of the things I would like to do with this is do a temple without walls. So it's a community that I'd like to build. It might be just me on my own. I'm quite happy for that too. But the temple without walls will look into the whole of the significance of the dark moon in spiritual practice and how you work with each moon. A temple without walls is kind of what I have here on the boat. It's, yes, I have walls on the boat, but the temple is kind of like wherever I'm at, water. So it's like a flow. Sacred is not confined to stone and water. It moves like water, flowing beyond borders, shaping itself to those who seek it. Temple without walls is a sanctuary, without physical boundaries, a living, breathing spiritual community connected by shared practice, personal exploration, and the ever-changing currents of life. One of the things I've found about many spiritual groups is that it's not based, well, the ones I've experienced, there may be many out there, is probably many out there, but it's like this is looking at the currents of life. So it's how to actually immerse yourself in life, not back away from it. So we're going to be rooted in the spirit of the dark moon. It's not a fixed place, a fluid experience, like my own journey on the waterways, where the river is both home and sacred space. Here, spirituality is not something you visit, it's something you carry with you. Whether you're drawn to deep contemplation, ritual practice, or the simple act of living with intention, this space would welcome you. So I'm building this, and yes, this is my intention of building it partly on here as well. So there'll be a couple of shows a week, perhaps, that will talk about sort of the flowing waters, ancient stones. Yeah, there was a whole bunch of, and I have to thank one of my friends who helped me came up with this concept. But the temple without walls is being built. No walls are needed. Anyway, I hope you've had fun today, because I have. I would love some feedback if you'd like. But if not, take care of yourselves, first and foremost, and take care of other people as well if you can. Bye now.